Hello figure fiends and collectors, this is me, Daniel East 1000, back again with another Star Wars The Black Series figure review. And well, jumping straight in because I've got a lot of thoughts I need to get through with this particular release. Rancher East 1000 inbound. As we give a proper dress down to Star Wars The Black Series Moff Gideon in Dark Trooper armour. First and foremost, we're going to take a look at the packaging, then the figure itself. As always, you've got Star Wars The Black Series at the top there. The window packaging, of which you do have that nice backdrop with the same colour palette as the colour banding, just underneath there. Really makes the figure pop in the packaging. You've got the name of the media that the character appears in, Star Wars The Mandalorian. Name of the character and number of the character. Bit of legalese at the bottom there. Nothing much going on the side. Star Wars The Black Series colour banding just there. On the other side, you've got a lovely image of the character faded into that colour banding with the name of the character as well. On the back you've got a nice image again. You've also got a bit of a bio on the character, number of the character, and a ton of legal garb at the bottom there, and at the bottom there as well, nothing going on at the top. So that is the packaging out the way and done with. Now let's take a look at the figure itself.
Disarm him. Thank you for gathering the Mandalorians into one place. You were a talented people, but your time has passed. However, as you can see, Mandalore will live on in me.
So here we have Moff Gideon in Dark Trooper armour. This is a character design that I initially wasn't a big fan of. Admittedly, that is through my own sense of nostalgia, because I identify Dark Trooper armour, particularly by the wearer, to be this big clunky gear, if you may. This big boy. But again, that's just my personal preference, and over time I have kind of suppressed that down and got over it a bit. And you know what, I have come round a bit more to this character design of the Dark Trooper armour. I am certainly really curious about those horny horns and the origin to those and who that may link into, if it does at all. So with those little internal trepidations away, I was kind of looking forward to seeing this figure be made. I mean, this is something that appeared in Season 3 of The Mandalorian, and it's been a hot minute for us to get a figure of it in 6-inch Black Series. It's been a real hot minute. I'm not too sure why. Obviously, things are always kept under wraps, and it feels like in that time frame for us to get this, it should be way more refined. I mean, we've certainly seen that with other figures. A lot of figures we've had that we've had to wait ages for, they end up being the best possible version that Hasbro could make of it. This, oh jeez, where do I even begin with it? And you know, I feel really bad because Hasbro's been on such a roll with absolute banger, fire figures, and we get this. So let's get into it, shall we? First and foremost, on paper, it looks lovely. Looks really, really nice. But when you actually start handling it, and I don't know if it's just my copy, so I'm going to put that disclaimer there, it could just be on my copy. First and foremost, the helmet is hella loose. It is like a bobblehead. It falls off. A lot of the other figures, you know, the bucket stays on quite nice and solidly. This, nah, it is loose as all anything. And depending on how you sort of pose it and position it, you can see a bit of chin from Gideon. In certain positions, it really doesn't cover the face as well. And what I tend to do to try and make it sit nicely is, sadly, rotate the head of Gideon and just slap that on, because then it'll actually stay in place quite nicely. But if we have a look at the head sculpt, I don't know if it's just me, it's an okay likeness to the actor, Giancarlo Esposito. Probably completely butchering that name, I'm sorry. But I don't know, part of me feels like this might be one of the weaker head sculpts, or paint applications on a head sculpt of a Black Series figure. It just doesn't feel quite as refined as I'm used to. Also the hair as well. You know, you've got some nice bits of detailing picked out on the hair, bits of greys. I know, of course, this version of him in Season 3 doesn't have the moustache. He's cleanly shaven, but there's just something about that head sculpt that just isn't as refined. Continuing on though, the armour is of course overlay, but it feels really squishy. Normally it feels pretty solid, like the body underneath it has been tailored to some degree, the actual overlay, but in this it doesn't feel quite like that. It feels quite squishy, and I want to say potential reuse under there, which, you know, is always fine. That's cool, but what the frick? To my horror, this is what happened when I opened the figure out of the packaging, started playing around with it. The arm, this arm, for some reason particularly, keeps popping out the socket like a son of a bitch, and I've even tried warming the joint up and popping it in. It fits in like snug as a bug in a rug, but then it just keeps popping out like nobody's business, and that's really, really frustrating. Now that could just be my copy of the figure. I don't know, has anyone else experienced that? Answer on a postcard, let me know. It just feels like maybe they've designed the arms to be new sculpt, and then they've tried to jank it in to an underbody that just isn't quite fitting, and there's maybe mold decoration. I don't know, maybe I'm over looking into it, maybe it's just an issue on my figure, could just be me. But continuing on, you know, I love the shoulder pads, you know, the arm looks great, the arms look great in terms of the detailing on them, some nice bits of greebly. You've got the belt as well, which you also have the holster, the cod piece, and then we come on to the legs, of which I will talk about a bit more in detail in the articulation segment. As I did mention in my Cassian Andor in CNR test pilot gear review, Hasbro have missed out the thigh cuts, and this is a real issue with this particular figure, but again I'll talk about that in the articulation segment. But again, the legs look very bulky, as they should be. That's how they appear in the show, because he's wearing armour. Now if we come round to the back of the figure, you've got this cape. Can we even call it a cape? I'd call it a dishcloth, because it just has no flow or posability to it. It is just flat. Normally jetpacks, they would have it so you can actually remove them and have a bit of readjustment to that cloak. No, this is glued down. This jetpack is stuck physically, as far as I'm aware, onto the back of that figure and onto the cloak as well. You can't squish it and form it into a way that looks like a natural flow. It's stuck there, it's solidly stuck down, and also where it's stuck down on the shoulders, it just has a very weird, awkward flow to it. And even after editing this review, I'm still finding problems with it. I've come to do my glam shots as always. Check out the cutting that's been done on that cape. I don't know if it's been done intentionally to make it look like it's got some sort of flow to it, but instead it looks like whoever's cut it can't cut straight. So just coming into a bit more positivity with this thing as best I can. In terms of its accessories, you've got the bucket, which, as I've mentioned, is very loosey-goosey on that head, but it's detailed rather nicely. It does look pretty good. Again, you've got the horns there, you've got the red detailing and the visor, but again, in some positions, how you plonk it on, you can see the chin of the figure and also a bit of the neck, which does kind of break away from some illusion. He also comes with this very long spear that he uses in the show. This also has a reused Magna Guard piece of electricity, which you can remove off of the tip of the spear, and you can add that on. It does look very good on the figure, just have to get it in a certain position for it to stay on nicely. Yeah, it's decent. Now, additional to that, as he does in the show have it folded down, they did include a folded down version, which you can have him hold. And there it is in its recoiled state. But there's nowhere to really clip that onto the figure, and that would have been, again, something, a nice little touch they could have done, just so you could clip it onto the belt of the figure or behind the figure. But still, nice that they included that. And then finally, he also comes with the blaster pistol, which I did show was mounted into the holster just there. You can unclip that and pop it into that. Well, it's this tiny little pea shooter that we have seen before on the previous figure, and that's all the accessories that he does come with, which again is fine. He comes with everything that you could possibly want him to come with. Like I said, the jetpack is not removable, which is a little bit annoying considering, again, it's stuck onto that cape. Moving on to articulation, he has a, remove the helmet, ball joint in the head, ball joint in the neck. You've got butterfly joints in the shoulders, ball jointed shoulders as well, ball jointed elbows, ball jointed wrists, ball jointed torso, ball jointed hips, and as I did mention, there's no thigh swivel, and this just makes the legs look really awkward, particularly because they are armour. Would be nice if you had that thigh swivel there so you can just readjust it, but instead you've got this armour position straight on and flush. You can slightly turn it a little bit, but not as much as you would really like, to get it into the poses that just look a bit more natural. The only point where you can twist it is when you bend the knee, and when you bend the knee and try and twist it that way, you've got that armour pad stuck onto that leg in that position. It just doesn't look as natural when you're posing it, because you don't have that additional swivel at the top there to just realign it to the position of the lower part of the leg. I don't know if I'm explaining that particularly well, but get this figure in hand and you'll know what I mean when you start posing the legs up. So as I say, he's got the ball jointed knees, ball jointed ankles with the rocker joints as well. And that's all the articulation that this figure comes with, which is relatively decent, but again, it is spoilt by the lack of that thigh cut. And that's it really, isn't it? Add that along with all the other little gripes I've added on, the looseness of the helmet, the fact the jetpack is stuck on to that dishcloth of a cape, that I'm sure many are going to try and take pictures of this thing and indeed pose this on their shelf and display, are really going to struggle to make that cape look good and dynamic because of how there's no flow or posability to it. And coupled, at least on my particular version of the figure, the arm that keeps popping off, I'm a little bit frustrated with this guy. Probably more than the actual costume design when I initially saw it. The only difference is that grew on me. I'm struggling to recommend at all. I think this would have really benefited from deluxe treatment, because I do feel like maybe I'm completely wrong, completely off the mark, so by all means correct me, but I feel like Moff Gideon's Dark Trooper armour is a bit more bigger, a bit more bulkier than what we've got here. Just to add a nail to the coffin for me, and how I cannot really recommend this figure to you, unless naturally you find it at deep discount. And that's a shame, because this figure really had the potential to be completely badass. Anyways, I'm going to stop myself right there. Can't recommend it. Hasbro, you let me down with this one, not gonna lie. Let me know what you guys think. Do you agree with me or do you disagree with me? Have I been way too harsh on this guy? Sound off in the comments down below. And well, this is me, Daniel East 1000, sign out, and thank you very much for watching.